Tata Capital. He has experience in analytics, professional, with great understanding of business, having experience across different functions and geographies. He has the ability to build the business, also passionate about building process, streamlining process for functioning the team. Can we welcome Abhishek with big round of applause, please?
And I think since we're running a little short of time, I'll try to look at, as my colleague from Flipkart was saying, this is like a book to be written, but I am consolidating it into 20 minutes. So what we'll do is speak for about 15-16 minutes and then you can ask questions. What we're largely covering off are three aspects of it. The creation of a data lake. It's an ongoing journey. What are some of the best practices? How can what Nilesh just before me talked about the best practices. Now once the data lake is met, in my mind there are two aspects of the data lake. One is repeatable processes that can be automated, that can be built as an MIS. And the second is why I still have a job after 2 decades is I believe, or I like to believe, I'm a data scientist, so I should have some bit of ad hocness which I can solve. So that's the other part of the data lake. And then finally some other advantages which will carry through the slides. I've just cut it down by a few slides. So for a lot of us who are not those tech geeks, the data lake is basically 3 layers. Conceptually, people can talk about ingestion layer, this layer, that layer. One is creation of a raw layer. Raw layer means simply get every data source inside at one place. It's like collecting different bits of information. People's laptops are brilliant ones to start with. So getting everything at one place so that there are multiple data sources are at one place. It should become a single piece of truth. You will have different, since I have spent a lot of time in banking and BFSI, my examples are more driven towards BFSI, but you can relate to the retail side of things also. What it should mean is the single sense of truth for everybody, because all data sources are there. All data, whatever be your Excels, whichever systems you are working on, make a note of it, get it inside. Even if you can't get it in 1 go, get it in 2 go, 3 go, whatever. Let it be a process. Once the data comes in, then what do? We make it into something that you are asking on a daily basis, something that is repeatable, and something like an outstanding view for a customer. This is something that everybody looks at. So this becomes a repeatable process. So I will call it an analytics layer. First is I got something as the raw layer, which is all from different systems, whichever format. Then I make it into a structure, which is some few things that I'll require daily. I'll put in various controls so that whatever trash I got in, I'm not keeping that trash. I'm kind of cleaning it out, having uniform system. To give you a very simple example, first name, last name can be in one system can be a first name, last name. In some system can be name. So you get everything into a ingestion layer, and then you create an analytics layer. This is a very I'm talking from a PII information. You can think of it as outstanding days due, ODD, whatever you want to call it. Then once this analytics layer is, you got the data, created the analytics layer, built what I call the KPIs, which is standardized definitions also. Let not there be multiple people having the same definition in the same organization and talking about it. So you document what are the KPIs to be built and make it available. And finally, once you have got it, using some of the visualization tools, like Nilesh presented something, so there are others also in the market, to have a visualization layer which kind of gives you the power, real power to democratize the data by having somebody in Chhattisgarh also looking at the data, as well as somebody looking in Tamil Nadu also having the same data and feeling happy that he is part of the organization gives him. The last one on the visualization is when people ask me what keeps me awake, is if there are people downloading data from somewhere, so there are Excel sheets flying around, so controlled access can be managed through any of the visualization tools. So what are the considerations? I think we've covered a lot of them, but one thing I would say that have a governance process in which any program, any product, anything that you're launching new, ask the question in your organization that how will the data come back into the lake? How will I get the MIS tomorrow? It shouldn't be that something new happens and then we don't know how to get the data back into the lake. The next is, always remember, business will always be in a hurry. We will be in that zone where people will say, "Arey yaar, karo yaar, let's start this business somehow, we'll get the data somewhere." If you have to build a practice, if you have to bring an institution, push back. Say, let's take those two weeks extra to get an idea, or at least have a time frame to it. Have data champions across various functions. This is a classic debate of a centralization, decentralization model. And over a period of time, my personal opinion, I heard somebody said about centralization, one of my esteemed speakers spoke about it, but I somewhere think the balance is somewhere in between, where you have to have a decentralized model where there are data champions, but the KPI definitions are centralized, so that his definition of a KPI is no different from somebody looking at the sheet. Like in a BFSI world, classic is with write-offs, without write-offs, RBI reported numbers, non-RBI reported numbers. Don't have these multiple things, have one definition. Finally, I would say that it's a journey. So don't think that you have got the data at one go and now your job is over. All of us would be unemployed by that logic. Every day there is something new happening, something new coming up, and you will require it. But have the patience to ensure that there is some sort of a governance in the company. To quickly reflect back on few of the visualization companies keep asking me about, and there's a lot of work at Tata Capital we have done. And one of the reasons has been that we started somewhere with the management dashboards. We made the CEOs the champions. When they used to see it, initially they would see it in Excel and PPT. We said, we will present in some other tool. Now, naturally, when he sees it, and when people see the CEO seeing it, his one down becomes interested because he also wants to, have that brownie point. So somewhere down the line, that top-down approach helped. The other thing is, remember all these visualization tools. If I switch on my mobile, I can just show you what has been my yesterday's disbursement. I know it in a moment because it's available on the mobile. But remember, it's again controlled. I get as an organization, we get to choose who sees what data and at what level. No PII information, summary information available to all. Just to give you a classical definition of what is the structure, and what tends to happen is that there will be different businesses, and we keep reading about these marts, data marts, what are they? So each function will build something that is a summary layer. There was 15 variables, 20 variables, 30 KPIs that is required. And what tends to happen is that you have something which cuts across most businesses. When you compare businesses across, and in Tata Capital we have 4 different businesses, and it kind of cuts across. And some of them are common things, like customer one view is a common thing. Now that's the beauty of having a lake. Then kind of a analytics layer which cuts across, which kind of generates an analytics layer which is repeatable. Then you push it into a dashboarding, and then have the 90% solved out. 90% of your MISs are repeatable. Whenever my team comes back and says that, I ask a simple question. Is the business asking the data twice or thrice? Then question yourself that why am I not able to automate? So that's the trick thing. Now, people talk about the internal performance. So largely, this is the first part, which is things that can be automated. Now, when I talk of internal processes, and just to give you a few takeaways from a visualization perspective, that even the company's KPIs can be there. All of this, again, somebody has taken the initiative to write it as illustrative also, though it's quite hazy, and none of these numbers are there. But just to give you an idea that then when you break it down into P&L, you break it into anything, all of this can be configured to the last person standing on the road, somewhere in Chhattisgarh or 𝗕𝘂𝗍𝗄. That is what the power or the drill down of all these tools help you. When I talked about getting all the data, the industry insight data doesn't come inside any of my systems. I have to procure it from the bureau. I have to procure it from a different system. Get the first layer right. The industrial layer, somebody should be making a note of what am I getting? What am I getting from outside? Because then my comparison tool becomes very easy. Processes when I talk about. Now this is something that every organization needs it. When you wake up in the morning, you will want to see what have I done yesterday? What has my team done yesterday? What has my team's done yesterday? And that's what it keeps on percolating it to the last person standing on the road. Again, the KPI definition becomes very important because disbursement can mean a lot of things to somebody over there who will say, I'll take the check in hand. Somebody here will say, I will not take a check in hand. Somebody will say that I'll count this as my sanction. Somebody will say that as my sanction. Have that centralized. And when you feed in that information to the last person, you know what they are doing, what they have done. You know what metrics you are measuring them on. More importantly, they also know. The last one is very interesting, which is the balance scorecard bit. Now that also, because we took some time in preparation of a data lake, we spent humongous amount of months in trying to prepare and look at different combinations. We have got this going also. But the balance scorecard, which is one of the toughest, I must admit, it didn't come overnight. It came with a lot of pain. But that is something also we've been able to automate and get it to everybody's mobile phones. Get it in the way that we want it. Now the first part is this I just wanted to show you the 90%, which is repeatable process, something that can be automated, something that somebody is asking on a daily basis. But what about the remaining 10%? Why do I need a data lake in the first place? What will it give me an advantage? The biggest advantage, guys, are the thing that your raw layer is a gold mine for any data scientist. It has unstructured, structured data both flowing in. And when I hire from all the top engineering institutes, this really excites them because they've got everything at one go. So they can focus a lot on analysis rather than coming back and saying, sir, wo data to nahi mila. So that's a common thing which when I walk down, nobody comes back to me these days and says that data is not there. Yes, it took us a lot of time, but that's the beauty. That's the power of a good data lake. Remember, another thing is that because from the time, means I'm one of those oldies, well, I might look very young, but when we started, I have started saying this like like an old man. When I started, somebody actually said, "Team PC laga do, thoda बढ़ जाएगा, thoda तीनों PC को connect करके will increase." From there to a data lake is a huge journey. Now when people are drawing out these insights, classical thing in our BFSI world is, what happened pre-COVID, what happened after COVID? Because COVID, nobody wants to do any modeling on. Now imagine this sort of a data on a marketing analytics or on a risk analytics. Because I have the power of the data lake, I can do it. The trend analysis becomes much easier. Some things that can be done much, much easier at a far minimal cost than what it used to be. The other part is obviously the geeks that really joined my team are excited about ML and AI. While some of my colleagues from the banking industry will agree, on the onboarding side, I don't see too much of AI picking up or deep learning being there. There is use cases, but the reason it's you can't come to a equation at the end of the day. So how much you can do is really debatable, and that's why. But from the collections use cases, for the marketing use cases, you can, and that is where the help from the data lake comes in because you have data at one. In the banking industry, if you go, you can see all these real-time use cases, which is you use an ATM, people flash up, where are you, what are the 3 different offers. That is all the power of a data lake. So what I've tried to do is to concise this. Happy to take in questions. Can go back onto some of the slides. Over to you guys in the audience.
Thank you, sir, for your time and presentation.
Hi. Thanks, Abhishek. It was quite exciting to hear you. And it looked like from the data lake standpoint, you have cracked the code in terms of how to plan and roll it out. For a data lake concept, most of the challenges comes when you think enterprise. Based on your experiences, what were those challenges that you want to share with everyone who are still in the mode of thinking how to look at data lake as a concept? There are multiple concepts like warehousing, data hub, mesh, and all of those things are coming now. What are those top two, three things that you want to share for the people who are just starting?
So I think this slide is the most critical slide. And I think if I have to ask you to think about this slide, there are three layers, and you have to understand that the first layer, getting people locked up in a room to get all the data sources, is first challenge. The second challenge is the organization coming to terms with a standard KPI definition, which everybody agrees to democratically and agrees to it. These are the two things that I think very, very difficult to do. The other is also obviously the amount of unstructured data that we have started generating. I think somebody, one of the esteemed speakers from Amex was talking about it in her presentation. It's humongous amount of data. Now everything is getting into the lake, but how do I convert that unstructured to a structured and make it meaningful? Because you can keep collecting as much data as you want, but what will you do after it? So the use cases are the third thing that you must look into, and that is where your focus should be. Sorry.
Yeah, I have one question.
Sure.
So when you started this lake journey, was it like a big bang, like you started just, okay, we'll start the data lake journey, or was it like a stepwise transformation that you were taking up to achieve this? And second question is, what about the legacy data or past data, like the data 10 years before, 5 years before? So have you also ingested that data in the lake?
Yes.
So these are
Yes, so
questions.
I think somebody in the morning, if I remember correctly, said that go piecewise. So we didn't want to do that. The rights and wrongs in every thought process. We took a big bite. Instead of taking a very small bite, we took a big bite. Good, bad, ugly, we don't know. We, as a team, sat down and took the decision. So we went after the two biggest systems. Obviously, we couldn't get the legacy data at one go. What we did was, we did a one-time ingestion of the legacy tools, got sign-offs from everybody's laptop, whoever had it, or from the old IT guy who was still in a corner and was writing a user-developed code, and got everything in. Once we got that in, there was no looking back. What we had to do was to get it at one go, once, and then incremental, like I said. The bureau data, somebody from people in the banking industry, bureau data is completely, it comes in CSV files as we speak today, and not one bureau, all the 4 bureaus put together. How do I get it? Now, obviously it took us some time to get it, but I think we finally managed it over a period of time. As I said, now the competition analysis means when I go to this slide, this is actually the industry insights slide that you are seeing. This is actually a bureau data. This has been not in Gen 1, maybe Gen 2, Gen 3 that we could do it.
Okay.
It's a journey.
Okay. Thank you, dear, for your time and presentation.